And once again, welcome back to the Domain Gaming. And they came from beyond the grave. This is the final week we'll be running this and seeing through the finale of Daughters of the Damned. And as of next week, we'll be returning to Blades in the Dark. So hope that you've enjoyed what we've done so far and the shape of things to come. And without any further ado, we are going to jump right back into with a cry from sort of an unseen figure in the shadowy darkness, away from the lights shining down. A cry of action. As last week, the group found the nature of one of these beings that, while trying to rescue Madame Striga from Bethlehem Asylum, was accosted by something which seemed to be able to transmutate into a misty shadow. The sudden appearance of this and the sudden violence caused quite a disruption within the asylum, which alerted the attention of Brandon Stoker. And after beating a hasty retreat, the ultimate demise of Madame Striga, the group went their separate ways to uncover what they could about what they had found, and discovered that something had begun and been disrupted by members of the Infernal Club, whose members were now being hunted down. The nature of which was unknown, but a ritual which was later to be revealed to be an attempt to rebirth the demon Lilith into the world, the mother of these infernal creatures. However, they needed a personal possession which had been taken by a member of the Infernal Club, which was retrieved and also deceased, as the group now look to travel to the Carpathian Mountains, with Deandro facing something of a quandary as well as to whether to run towards the fire or the opportunity to maybe walk away, but leaving the potential threat of something that could bring about the end of days now once again in the world, and a threat to all of humanity. And with that cry of action, we'll jump back in as an early an early misty morning. The clanking of chains in the London docklands as a large vessel set to sail to the shores of Romania. Let me just and the port town of Constanta, that will eventually lead to what is likely to be that final showdown within the Carpathian Mountains and the region of Transylvania. However, we're going to start with Deandro. What have you decided on?
Now I'm taking a leap of faith here, so might as well stick the landing.
As with something of a grim reticence, walking the cobblestones, there's a clatter of a donkey-drawn cart that goes past you, laden with various wares of transport. You hear the cries and the rather ripe language of the dock workers that fills the air as the enormous metal hull of a ship by the name of the Karu Marin sits bobbing in the waters, a trade vessel with a contingent of travellers, most of which look to be. This is not luxury travel in any way, shape, or form. It's an additional for additional fee that the crew can make, and the ship itself can make a little bit more money on in offering that passage. However, it doesn't offer any kind of comforts. As you approach the rest of your group, what are you all doing?
So didn't we just get off a ship? Like we're
no, you're in the London docks at the moment, yet to sail.
Oh.
Getting on a ship.
Well, we're getting on a ship.
Yeah.
I think Brandon would probably be looking down at his watch and then just kind of wondering if it's not too late to turn back, but realizing that it'd be quite awkward at this point.
Kind of go over and pat Brandon on the back. All in a day's work, right?
Yes. I understand dealing with monsters when they show up, but are we sure going to them is the best option?
I mean, it's not like we are going unprepared. We
What
know
are
what we are facing. That's a good start.
I know there are bears in the woods. I don't go out and try to fight one. But fair enough.
As you stand, as the last of the cargo is still being loaded into the hull of the Karu Marin, you're aware of a figure rather ill-fitting in this area, rushing through as a breeze runs through. He puts a hand to his hat, can keep it atop his head, and ducks out of the way as two brawny seafarers sort of push by him. Apologies, and you hear him call across, Arden, and waves a newspaper as you see Jonathan Milton, your academic companion and friend, who is evidently, despite the early hour, and is desperately trying to make his way towards you.
Arden waves his hands and here, over here.
As he hastily comes towards you, and covered a couple more as he goes into this big Gladstone bag, opens up his feet, and covered a couple more books that might be of use to you, but it doesn't bode well. As he takes out these two old leather-bound books and hands them over to you, and he taps them on the front covers, and it's rather grim, I'm afraid. There's potentially a lot of expectation on you now, as it seems that should this ritual be completed, to undo it requires quite the sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice, if you will. I realise this is a huge amount to ask, and he turns to all of you to ask that. My best advice would be to see that it doesn't transpire in the first instance.
So, if it gets completed, one of us has to die?
In order for her to be bound away again, yes. From what this one, he taps the book, and from what it says, it's the soul of one becomes entwined with the soul of another. In that ritual to seal her away again, thus confining yourself to an eternal hell.
So less so about the death and the more so about the eternal hell part. Okay, got it. Let's try to avoid that, shall we?
I think that would be the ideal solution. I think all I can say to you at this point is good luck. As you see walking across, evidently very, very hungover, the figure who's currently holding hat in one hand and just rubbing his head with the morning after the night before catching up with him, as you see the figure of Captain Fitzgerald walking across. He indicates a couple of the crew members who are waiting alongside as he begins to walk up the gangplank, looks back towards you, gives you something of an acknowledgement as you hear, as he steps aboard, you hear the cry from the first mate going out, "Captain on deck!" And boarding yourselves as the ship begins to set sail into the docks and into the Thames estuary. We're going to cross over for where Frankie, from your group of friends, yes, makes his way downstairs, equally hungover as Captain Fitzgerald. Passes by a couple of those who have passed out on various couches of the previous night's debauchery. Makes his way over to the 3-card drawer that he made for you. Looks down at it. And as the ship sails out into open water, he draws another card and turns it over to reveal going from a 3-card draw to a 5-card draw to reveal the mage. And the 5th card as he turns it, as the group of you look back towards the now diminishing streets of London, he places the 5th card on the table. Death. And as something stirs over the waters, a dark shadow flies towards the ship as it heads out into the open channels and into, is it the Bering Sea? Crossing through into the Mediterranean Sea, rather, not Bering. And this misty shadow follows the face of the daughter of the damned, fixed into the smoky mist-like vapor as it rattles towards you, and the ship draws closer and closer as the screen begins to flicker, and suddenly everything goes dark. And as the port town of Constanta appears from the mist, the ship now listing in the water, the few surviving crew limp from point to point as landfall has begun to be made. the first thing you notice is that who's gonna be my victim? Arden now wears a ragged patch over one eye, the dried blood of the other still visible over one, which is where the cloth covers your now missing eye. As the weary travellers, the first mate now serving as captain, indicates to start bringing her into port as the few sailors begin bringing up the rigging, sailing in as the ensign begins signalling the ports with various flags as the ship crawls into dock. And you disembark into a city or a town which seems untouched by the modern industrial era of the 19th century. This seems to be much more of a romanticized medieval type locale. Most of the heavy work being done by manual labour rather than, although there are a few donkeys and a couple of oxen that pull carts. And as you step foot into the docks, you see that there is among the labourers and the very, very functional vehicles, there is a single carriage awaiting you.
Jarad kind of sighs and he goes, well, if any of you needed proof of what we're doing and why we're doing it, there's your proof. You saw the proof of your own eyes. And that's a quip.
So next roll, get your +1 die, and on 3.
So
we're not voting.
He's pointing at the ship, right?
Sorry, yes, voting, please.
Oh.
Is that a suitable use of just a Y or an N to me directly?
Yeah, I am essentially pointing at the ship behind us and.
And that fantastic scene. It's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and there was some
Nearly
pretty.
lost an arm.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I look incredulously at Jarad, and I'm like, proof?
That's quite.
Did you see what happened there? It's an orgy. It's an orgy of horror, and that's one of my clips.
Right. So yes, vote on both of those.
Jarad, that's quite an inappropriate phrasing, as one of us only has one eye. Not a
Both of those have been absolutely. As you begin to make your way towards the carriage, which the driver of which, a hunched old man in a fur-lined coat and a battered top hat, waits, puffing at a pipe as you approach. Is there anything you would like to discuss?
I'm sorry, remind me, what were the methods of disposing with these things?
So obviously from the previous scene, and enough to at least scare her away, you clearly remember that fire is a serious concern of theirs.
Of course.
And going from the research, impalement through the heart.
Hmm.
Yeah, we go in and we just burn everything to the ground.
Mhm.
Fire can dissolve. That's a whip!
I
Although with how
even
they
need to vote.
move, I'll vote.
I was going to say, do we need to? Again, I don't think there's any dispute on that one. That was absolutely perfect.
We
and even
we must be careful with how they move. Remember, they'd like to take you by surprise. Just getting out quips.
quips don't stack, so
Okay. I just didn't want that one. I can't imagine any other time to use it other than before shit goes down. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
I'd
to
say-
get it out of the way. Oh, that one's gonna be thematic.
But it works two
Absolutely.
ways.
Oh my goodness. I think there is something we need to address.
Hmm?
Death looms over us, right? The
Hmm.
Arden's friend mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Last resort. Only a last resort.
It won't come to that. Can.
Won't it?
and as you board the carriage, which creaks a little bit as old and disused, and it rattles as it makes its way over old cobbled streets, that black shadow from above flits in the night sky, heading further north into northwest into the country, into the northeast, into the northwest. Sorry, into the landscape. The cities and towns giving way to dense forest, the howls of wolves echoing from underneath, and to the sight of an enormous Gothic castle with flying buttresses that cuts against a full moon. And as the figure transmutates and becomes corporeal once again, at the foot of the stairs, the doors swing open for her entrance as if expecting her arrival. And from inside, another figure turns. A blonde woman with the same pronged teeth, and looks towards the entranceway. My sister returned. As you make your way through old mountain paths, the stones skitter down sheer rock faces as you too make your way towards this final location, this site of this final confrontation. And back in the carriage. Is there anything you would like to? Is there anything you would like to do? Do you like to look at any of the research material, or?
Yep.
Okay. For that, I would say give me either an intellects, enigmas, or humanities check, depending on which book you are looking at.
Going with Enigma.
Okay.
And I have one bonus die, right?
Yes, you do. Yeah. And
I can look at the one that's humanities.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll go for intellect.
You got a trailer moment.
Ooh.
As
Dramatic reading.
if you would like to repeat your line, as we're going to cut ahead in time now to the to let me change the music a little bit. As oh no, not that one. As the voiceover cuts in of coming this summer, only at the Domain Theatre, Daughters of the Damned. And Arden, give me a line as it cuts to that final sting of the trailer.
Fire cleans all.
And with that, we're going to jump back to the action at present and an old forgotten mountain path. As Arden, you page through the books given to you by Jonathan. And is there anything you would specifically like to know that I can give you for those?
We already
Yours?
know some of their weaknesses, so maybe how to know when they are near, something like that, sign of their presence.
Oh, very, very nice. So it's rumored that there are certain behaviors. I've suddenly lost the ability to speak. Behaviors of certain animals. From a distance, you will see that certain creatures are drawn to them, namely bats and wolves. And at a closer distance, they tend to create the sense of an unease, a feeling of being watched. While as that castle looms ever closer and closer. Jarad, is there anything you would like to know the details about?
See, if I knew what the book was about, I'd have a better.
So you looked at humanities, didn't you?
Yes.
So that is going much more into the folklore and the old stories that surround these things, whereas obviously the Enigmas is much more those written by maybe on the fringes and the pseudosciences, but there's a bit more of an academic approach to those, whereas you're going back into old world mythology.
All right. The last time I think Jarad would be looking at the last time they had existed on the Earth, so to speak. Basically, events so we can kind of get a snapshot of what might be coming in the future, so we can, like, if earthquakes are commonplace in their location in the folklore, we know to watch out for that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you see that there are various stories that circulate, especially in trade and port towns. They're sort of barroom, tavern floor tales that are told by various individuals, usually for a refill on their drink, and a story of soul-chilling terror. So there are a few recurring themes. Usually they are not they're not isolated. There's usually a town or a village not far from where they are. And this is usually, in these tales, this is usually where the hero or the explorer or the adventurer discovers the town to be deserted. Not left in any kind of mass exodus, but almost everybody seems to have disappeared, so food remains on tables uneaten, crawling with insects and various cultures of mold. Meager possessions still sit around. Sometimes children's toys sit where they were still being played with. Clothes in wardrobes and so on and so forth.
Alright, so obviously that port town was not deserted, so we need to be on a lookout for a deserted town of sorts. We'll know we're on the right track then.
And it's sometime later that the horse on the road begins to buck and whinny as the rider attempts to keep it under control as you cross this very, very narrow, rickety bridge. A couple of wooden boards that fall and spiral into the chasm into a river below, as this horse reluctantly begins to almost skitter forward. And as you feel a jolt as the back wheel of the carriage falls, as a board gives way, and all of you sort of slide down, looking below. The carriage now sits at an angle where one of the wheels has fallen through. You can see through the window. There's that huge descent into a river with rocks cropping out at various places.
Falling to my death is not something I wish to do. Any ideas?
Don't fall.
That's helpful.
Welcome.
As the horse bucks again, and there's the sound of splintering wood, and the other wheel falls back, and there's the creak of wood behind you as the horse breaks free. You hear the reins and snap. Everything snaps, and there's the skittering as this thing just charges ahead.
Okay. So if the horse is spooked, could I
Horse
use...
is bolting.
Okay, so when I see the horse is like spooked and like about to run for it, could I use one of my tropes as Don't Be Fooled, which lets me snap a companion out of a mental condition such as stunned or panicked?
Oh, okay, but I'm going to say yes, but there's a high threshold on this because you're not dealing with you can't reason with it. It's a spooked horse, there's no logical mind or.
Right.
It's
So
required.
what would it be?
This would be a manipulation persuasion.
What would composure be?
Or composure persuasion would also work, yes.
Okay.
However, you're gonna need 4 successes on this.
All right, and what did a equip do?
+1.
+1. Composure, persuasion, +1 dice. Ah, I rolled so
It's-
many dice.
Welcome to the system. The more dice you roll, the less successes you get.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Makes
not
sense.
as there's a jolt as the horse skitters free and begins running for the other side. Just Robyn, you were waving. What's the? Oh, I thought you wanted to do something.
Oh, I was waving goodbye to the horse.
Oh, goodbye to the horse. Yeah.
Sorry.
With that, as the carriage lurches again as it falls another bit and kind of catches on the roof, so now nearly the back of it is now teetering over that precipice. I'm going to need everyone to make me a dexterity athletics to jump free. Bear in mind, gonna say.
Dexterity athletic.
Arden, you've got 2 additional successes on this from your previous roll. You've got 2 stunts.
Okay.
You've got +1 on your roll from. Did you use your quip line already? Never mind.
Everybody can see the look on my face. This is not a good roll for me, I'm pretty sure.
I think it has to be better than mine, or we have to be equal.
How many dice?
1.
Anyone?
Just slightly
I was
better,
gonna say-
2.
I was going to say, if anyone wants to use a trademark, this is probably a good moment for it.
None of my trademarks have anything to do with this.
Oh, yeah. Would I didn't sign up for this qualify?
Oh. Just lost. We just lost you on. Reconnect on Discord.
Let's see. Actually, no, I can use tougher than I look and I get +1 on any physical roll for this scene. I feel like this is the time.
Hold on.
Alright.
Robyn's disconnected from.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still gonna make my roll.
Go for it. I'm.
It does not matter. No successes.
Oh, we got a botch from Arden. We've got a. Oh, we got.
I feel bad for Robyn here because they're just sitting there watching these rolls come through.